Hey guys, how's it going? So, I thought I'd make this video to once again make a call to action about nerfs in Epic 7. Or rather, I just wanted to talk about them again. So, this is a touchy subject, I know a lot of people don't really like it, but I'm going to try and convince some people. And those of you I don't convince, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, that's alright. But I strongly think that nerfs should happen, and let me explain a few reasons why that might apply to a lot of you. So I think that nerfs would, first of all, increase the diversity of units in Epic 7. I think few people would disagree with that. When you have a bunch of characters that are all the way up here and the rest of the characters are down here, then if you nerf these characters that are up here and the next broken characters or OP characters are more around this level, then that's a huge improvement. Because people always say, well, if you nerf those characters, then some characters are always going to be broken and overpowered in the meta. That's okay though. There's always going to be characters that are stronger than others. That's fine. But what matters is that some characters such as Lua, it's no surprise I'm on the screen right now, it's no surprise that she is all the way up here, and a lot of the other characters are right around here instead, right? And if you nerf characters like Lua, Emma Lilius, let's say like Zio, Angel of Light, I don't know, just as some examples, then it might bring the level of some of these characters a little closer to more around there, maybe. So maybe you get to use some of your favorite units. Maybe your favorite unit is, I don't know, Valencia. Maybe you get to use them a lot more often, just as a random example. That means it'll just increase the diversity of the game and more characters will possibly be able to be played, which I think is a win-win for the majority of players. Now, here's another thought. What if they make it so that when they nerf a character or buff, I think this would work for actually both, they have a trial period. So maybe like a 2-week period where the changes are in the game, and people will be trying them out in their matches of RTA, etc., Guild War, Arena, all of that. And then after 2 weeks, they have a chance to revert them or change them a little bit, and then that'll be the change going forward. I think that would be a really good idea that they could implement, and that way less people would be unhappy, because when they nerf a character, like let's say Hua Young, they completely gut them, they destroy them, and people always say, like, it's because Smallgate has no idea what they're doing, and maybe that's true, but I think that the reason why they nerf these characters so heavily when they do is because they don't want to have to retouch up the character. If they nerf, let's say, Lua right here, and they change her a little bit, but it's not a big enough of a nerf, like let's say they made it so her S1 was a 1-turn duration of the defense break, and that was it. Well, then they would give it a selector, all that stuff, and then let's say they have to nerf her again in the future. I don't think they want to deal with that. So when they nerf a character, they want to make sure that they're completely destroyed. When they're nerfed, they're completely nerfed, right? So I think that's how Smallgate approaches it, and it's because they give out selectors, all that other kind of stuff. Now, they could just say, well, we're not going to give out selectors and then just start nerfing stuff, but I think a lot of people would probably be pissed about that. Me personally, I'm so fed up with some of these characters that I wouldn't even care at this point, but like, let's say you're newer to the game, you just got Emma Lilius from your Moonlight Blessing, and then they nerf the crap out of her. That'd be a really crummy situation, right? And I don't think we're going to see nerfs for her really anytime soon because she's on the selector and all that. But anyways, what I'm saying is, would people be okay with like a trial period of like 2 weeks maybe, where people can give their feedback, see how it works, and then Smallgate can come to a final decision after that of whether they should keep the nerf or maybe tone it down a little bit or maybe increase it a little bit, something like that. I think that would be really helpful for the game. I think a lot of people would be more fine with nerfs if there was something like that, an actual trial period to see if the character is actually worth it. Because right now they just completely break their legs, like what happened with Hua Young. Now, one thing I will definitely say too is if you look at some of these characters, they try to make counters to them. Like, look at Emma Lilius. They made Bunny Dominion, they made Benny Maru. Their characters specialized just to counter them. And I would say Summer Luluka as well. Ocean Breeze Luluka. Now, she is probably the only character that's been made that's actually decent against Emma Lilius. She is actually a well-designed character against her. A lot of these other ones, no. They don't work at all. And I think that it's really shown that some of these characters are so powerful that you can't really make great counters to them. Characters like Lua are just permanently banned in like every single match, and if you look in the World Cup, she was banned in every match except for like, what, 8 now or something like that? And I think she's won every match but 1 at this point, so turns out this character is actually pretty strong and maybe a bit of a problem. And I think a lot of people would be fine with a character like her getting nerfed. If they nerfed Hua Young, then they should probably nerf this character too, right? That's just my thought. Now, a lot of people might say, but X or Y is my favorite character. And look, I don't mean any disrespect, But I honestly feel as though it's a bit selfish if you feel like, oh, I like this character, so even if they're broken, they shouldn't be nerfed or changed. I think that's a little much, right? A lot of games nerf and buff and do all sorts of balance stuff for characters, and they might be your favorite and they get crushed, but that's just how it is, right? But there might be a lot of other character options that open up because they get rid of some of these characters from being so overbearing. Now, I think a big problem with that is obviously when they nerf, they crush them. They completely break their legs and make them useless, so that's where the 2-week thing would come into play. But I do feel as though we should be a little bit more open-minded, maybe, to Smallgate making changes to some of these characters. Now, a lot of you guys might not be convinced by what I'm saying right now and say, like, well, I still don't really think that is a good idea. That's totally fine. I can't get everyone to agree with me, but if we look at a character like Emma Lilius, let's say, they're about to buff Bunny Dominial, specifically to counter her, I would say. It doesn't really counter Loa, but it will counter a character like Emma Lilius, hopefully. Now, if this buff does not work, if Bunny Dominial is not a strong enough a counter against this Emma Lilius, then I would say that it's essentially an unsolvable problem at this point, right? Because they've tried so hard so many times to make counters to these characters, and it just never really quite hits the mark. Now, I will say, some characters such as Emma Landy, she's newer, and I would say that she's as oppressive as a lot of these other characters. She is a lot easier to make counters for. She's very straightforward, right? She's weak to characters that always crit, she's weak to characters that ignore defense and do like the true damage stuff like Lethe and Dark Corvus, right? She has some weaknesses in the game already that they can make more characters that capitalize on that, so it's a lot easier to counter that character. They don't really need to nerf Emma Landy, they just need to make more stuff, implement them into the game. I think that works out great. But you have characters like Lua. How do you make a character that beats her that doesn't beat everything else in the game? How do you beat her without just power creeping completely, right? You need to make a character that somehow punishes increase skill cooldown while also punishing extra turn at the same time, or I guess punishing non-attack skills. I don't really understand how you can do it. You make a character that just punishes every single support in the entire game because they punish non-attack skill users and extra turn users. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do. And how do you make a character that also deals with guiding light at the same time? It just seems like a really tall task to be able to actually find a way to balance this character by just buffing characters or implementing new ones. So I think nerfs are really the true way of solving this, and a lot of you guys will disagree. That's okay. People always say another L take by Jenazad. Oh wow, look, I got a follow in the middle of this. Looks like some people agree, huh? But people always say another L take, and that's fine. That's fine, you don't have to agree, but I truly feel as though this would help the game a lot. And after the most recent Valorous season, and seeing how the game was just boiling down to constant Landy spam, constant Emily spam, constant Zeo spam, constant Para spam, I think it gets a little bit old, doesn't it? And if you nerf characters, it'll really improve the meta. Now, you could say maybe they should just ban characters from certain seasons and stuff like that. That's another option they could do too. But I truly think that getting to the root of the problem, not trying to just, waste any time, not trying to subvert the issue, I think it is the simplest, just most easy thing to do is just nerfing the characters. And I'm probably going to always feel that way, so oh well. But anyways, thanks a bunch for watching, and I hope to see you next time.